Hello, I'm Simon Calder. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's Back to the City. Today I'm very excited to be joined by Sarah Elstrand, who is the Nunnery.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Sarah.
We're starting now, right?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
We have begun.
Okay.
We are beginning. And let's begin with Begin. It's from your previous record, Fire Dove.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I was contemplating what would the perfect beginning, or what would an appropriate beginning of the interview be,
Mm-hmm.
I think that the lyrics of Begin kind of set us up well for the conversation that we're going to have, because they are, in the beginning there was the word became flesh, and then a little bit later in the song a really interesting thing happens. The voices, they combined and became the hum.
And the hum goes on and
Yeah,
on.
and then there aren't words, and there is hum, and there are the voices are all you, but there are these multiple voices. So we can hear this song. Editing me has is making that accompany us talking right now. It's very meta what's happening on that first song on your first record.
Yeah.
What is it highlighting about the use of words and about the transformation of words into sound and the existential or spiritual kind of significance of that?
I've never had somebody dissect the song, and so it's really interesting. At least the lyrics of that
Yeah.
particular one, and yeah, you kind of explained it the way I would hope people gradually get into that.
Yeah.
Melody is, I guess, preparing yourself for the importance of melody.
Mm.
And I like to leave a lot of things up for interpretation,
Mhm.
and that the beginning was, I guess you explained it perfectly. I don't know how I can like go over that again better than you just did.
I was just explaining what the song did. The song kind of speaks for itself, but the song is doing something really interesting. It's highlighting, for the person who is paying attention to the lyrics, who is listening to what they mean, like it's highlighting, don't just focus on what these words are, like the interplay of form and content, of what the words are saying and what the voice is doing, with the words being about voices and the hum. So when I was asking you to share lyrics for the new record ahead of the interview, you shared with me a very special, some photographs of a very special booklet, which if people buy the record, they can get this booklet.
Or it was, yeah, I also had it, I made it kind of in replacement of the physical copy. So I created a bunch of the book instead of making like a CD available. So if people buy the book, then they get like the digital download of the
Oh, sure,
album
with the
and
book.
stuff.
Yeah.
And I made those by hand. I like drew them and then sewed the binding and then folded it. So it's very like I constructed that and hoped that it kind of, I think a lot of the songs without words, I am very visual and usually perform with live projections, video, and I don't know, I think it all in combination gave me some other medium to tell people, like, I hope that you see something more than just the melody, that it can create like more of a atmosphere.
Or an energy.
Yeah.
There's references in Under Mission, I feel this energy. So, and yeah, and I think that that's more important than one could focus technically on what's happening musically with the melody and everything, and what equipment's being used, that kind of thing. One could focus on the words and what the words mean. More important than all of that, but kind of a product of all of that, is the energy created. And something that I find really interesting in your bio is the emphasis, as well as on there being live visual projections often, on creating a new atmosphere for each performance, and the energy that so the energy of each song produced in collaboration with the audience, and maybe kind of like breaking down the distinction between performer and audience to some extent.
Yeah, absolutely. I always, not always, I like to tell the audience when I play that it's kind of up to them if I'm going to change what I'm doing, because the energy of them, I think, gives me purpose of why I'm there.
How are you kind of reading that energy?
Well, I don't know. It's more of like it's hard to explain a feeling when you're just looking at somebody and then something's translated, like to explain what's happening in between that. But for a while, in between songs, when I look up and then look at the audience, I kind of just, the gaze is translated into some type of melody for me. I don't know how that always, because when I write with a looper in a space, a lot of the times when I was beginning it, it would be in a place where I could see a lot of like outdoor activity or just nature, like being influenced by the weather.
Yeah.
And that kind of just progressed into sound for me in the same way of performing in different places. And I like to incorporate like improvisation in my songs when I loop, at least once during a show.
Yeah.
And so during that time in shows, I usually let people know, like, this is how you're making me feel, but not just you, myself, and where I've been today. And I think those songs usually don't have words.
Okay.
So it's translated only through melody.
Is that how the songs that end up being on the two records evolved? Was it the genesis of those songs too?
Yeah, mostly. I unintentionally have been it kind of has just progressed into, it'll start usually with the melody and then words will come later. But this new record was more intentional about what I was singing about. The last record, Fire Dove, a lot of it had to do with like heat and that how heat has a lot of like core energy.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to, it's weird to talk about this still because I still like when I sing the old songs now, it means something completely different than when I wrote them originally. But with Begin, yes, I think it was like a way to enter into the space, if that makes sense, a space of listening.
A space of listening, a space where the meaning of words matters. But
I'm not saying many words.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's confusing.
And there's something more than just the understanding the meaning of the words. Because if you wrote these down just like as poems, it would be missing so much of what creates the energy of the song, of course. When I think of, you were saying about the fire imagery in Fire Dove, it makes me think of like the phoenix, and obviously the flames are what enable transformation and growth in that legend. And in the song Fire Dove, you've got that gold now, fly, I'm holding you back. Those are all the lyrics, I think.
Almost, yeah.
More or less?
The idea of that song, this is one of the songs I do talk about, at least used to. I don't play it as much now because I have so much new material.
Sure.
But I wrote that song about honey. And
about just honey that one would eat.
I used to beekeep a little bit, and I would be extracting the honey, and then you'd scrape off the side of that crate, and it creates, there's like propolis that builds up, and you can use propolis for like medicinal reasons, and beekeepers like to keep it because it's like valuable.
Okay.
And to me, honey is like gold because it is like transferred into money in a way, and the color, and my idea was, what would it be like to be propolis? And that's what that song is the idea of like being in the crate and witnessing like these like bees coming in and these taking like the gold and now flying away. So the energy of them flying to and from the work. I don't know.
You do know, I think. And
I do know.
I'm holding you back. Like, is that the human that's trying to kind of control this process, or?
I like to leave that part open.
Okay.
But the wax is it's covered by a layer, and you have to scratch it to release the honey. So the holding back is the idea of like propolis and all of that covering the honey.
Yeah.
In a literal sense, but I like to think of it as like something holding. It's a very like, it meant this when I wrote it, but it also means like a lot of things when I play it live.
Yeah, that's like a microcosm, and then these patterns and that kind of combination of forces can show up in different ways.
Yeah.
In different like analogous ways. So yeah, that's really interesting. Something that, so you're about to play for the first time at Mortimer's and the second time on Thursday, the final Thursday of this month. By the time this is broadcast, on the final Thursday of this month, July 25th, you're going to play. Thank you very much. At the Back to the City Summer Smorgasbord event as one of 3 local acts. The other 2 are Technician and an EDM live instrumentation band called Gypsy Freak Circus. And then there's 2 touring acts, The Life and Times and When Particles Collide, and you're going to be opening that event. And then the following day you're going to be opening for Doc's video release party, also at Mortimer's.
Yes. It'll be fun.
For the first and second time, as I said. You're very conscious from what you said at the beginning of the interview of whatever space you're performing in and making each performance a unique thing. What thoughts do you have about performing at Mortimer's, and specifically perhaps also about performing at Mortimer's 2 nights in a row, but at 2 very different events?
Well, I'm going to have no projections for the first show, and then
for the
I'll
Thursday
have
one.
them
For the Friday, for the Doc record release, you'll have projections.
The days of the week, correct? Yeah, and then I will have them the other show. So I think that is 2 different things, anyways. But usually when I don't play with projections, I don't know, the set will be a lot different. You know, sometimes I'll talk more to the audience because I don't have this other thing kind of in entertaining people, I guess. But I can't tell you how I'm going to feel or what the show will actually be because it hasn't happened yet. But I feel like they'll be different. Like even with the lineups, I've never played with any of the bands in the first night, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
So I think that will be interesting to set a tone for all of those other groups that are going to be coming through.
A beginning again, a tone setting again.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm excited for both of them for very different reasons.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, I'll go. I'm looking forward to that that video release show for Doc too. Doc is great. They South, of course, is the act. Okay, well, let's take a plunge into We Are the Stars. And you were saying that with this record, which is the cover image for it, you were more intentional with there being specific themes. Is that fair to say? Let's start by looking at this image that we have between us. How did this become the cover image for We Are the Stars? What does it evoke and how does it relate to the record?
Well, with the idea of stars and us being stars as humans, I kind of wanted there to be a moon or atmospheric space look to it. And Nicholas Elstrand edited this photo into more of that. I just basically was like, I would like it to look like space and I guess relaxing. And I feel like I can't really take credit for what he did, but he did what I like it a lot. But the song, there's a song called We Are the Stars.
Yeah, opening track.
And that is like an idea of us reflecting on, like humans reflecting on like looking at the earth, I guess, and then identifying that and taking, I guess, pride in who you are as a person. And that's kind of like a continual feel throughout the whole album, is taking pride in who you are and then just becoming that person and enjoying it.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people need to hear that sometimes, that like, we are, like, I'm proud of you, I like myself.
Yeah.
Like, just like things that are simple that it's like hard to accept sometimes.
Definitely. You're right.
Yeah.
I agree, at least. This is who we are is a lyric in We Are the Stars.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that if there is it fair to say that, are you communicating that there is basically an essential self of each person, that the more we align with that, the more right things are, and the better we feel, and it is just the process, and each person has difference.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a case of like trying to follow a model. It's more a case of relaxing into and aligning with what one already is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this record is encouraging.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think people trying to be something other than themselves is sometimes harmful.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have like an idea or like a role model, but I think a lot of the times people can be their own role models. And I think there's a lot of self-discovery that's out there, and people have given us like the tools for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wanted to write something in that way for myself. Like, I don't need something much bigger. I just need to like work harder on what I enjoy and how I like to view each day. But I always picture like in a day, I guess, for myself, is there's all these opportunities you can do. You could choose to not, like, just even experiences or events you can go to, but it's your, like, life is waiting for you, and it's just your, like, choice to, like, use it and, like, live it.
Yeah, the resource, no matter what you do, life is there, and one can become more or less kind of consciously involved in this interaction.
Yeah.
And if one is kind of more conscious of it and living and being and seeing, then there's lots of rewards to be reaped and growth
Hopefully.
to experience. Yeah. So yeah, to live, to be, to try, to see is one of the loops that's happening. That's the opening. That's the beginning of this record. To live, to be, to try, to see. It makes me think of, I mean, Yoda says there is no try, doesn't he? So, but so what do
I like it.
And Yoda is someone who is, you know, who has got being down. So what is the record? I just thought of this question in this moment. But what is the record suggesting about the relationship between being and trying? In the, to live, to be, to try, to see. We are trying to see. To some extent, as long as we're trying, we're not 100% just being.
That's true.
And yet we need to try.
Yeah, I think more of the action is what I'm talking about, rather than like just trying as in like putting in the effort.
Yeah.
Which I think that's different than, I feel like that's two separate things. Like in that, it's weird to dissect that line like this, but I think some people, when that specifically, I think I'm talking more about trying to see something different than what's already there, or like look at things differently.
Being open to shifting, to breaking out of
anything.
anything.
I think it's, and I think in that way, like, you need to try, but if you were just being, like what you're saying, that would be like the ultimate of what you hope to become. So I feel like that's two different like levels of, I keep thinking about Star Wars now, so I don't know.
Well, yeah, there's a promising paradox, I think, there. This is what we have, this is who we are. And that struck me as there's an interesting kind of contrast between like having where like I think I have this cup. This is my book. This book is really important. Like, these are things that I have, and then this is who we are. Is like beyond that. Like I could lose my book, which is important to me, but still be me. I'm not waiting now. I'm just laying here. That's interesting that a particular posture of like laying kind of comes up there.
I think that felt nice to sing. That was one of those lines. I was like, oh, it feels nice to sing that.
The sound of laying. I mean, there's a softness.
Yeah, I like the word, and I like how it feels saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, if one does have the posture of laying, there's a kind of receptivity and openness. I think that, you know, when one's not trying to maintain a particular posture if you're laying, which I think again is a good kind of setting of the tone and fits with the energy. Then the lyrics, of course, you referred to life waiting for you in conversation a moment ago, and that's another one of the looping lyrics. Right at the very end of the song, a loop that contains the lyric, "We are the stars," and has the most kind of complex and intriguing lyrics, is all that's left. So everything else kind of is stripped away, and we're left with, "We are the stars, we are the stars, the soul for the heart, the home for the art, the light in the dark." And that introduces the theme of home, which becomes very important. There's lots of references to like leaving the house, or in solace, making the home, bring the season to make the home in. I'm going home, dear. So there's, and in the previous song, Proud, I'm proud of you for getting out of your house. So there's there's creation of a home. There's a getting out of the home. Both of these things are celebrated as good and things to be proud of at different moments.
Exactly.
The home for the arts. So what's going on? It seems that there to be suggesting that there's this cycle. Sometimes we need to invest in like making ourselves at home in a particular place, and then we might become more focused on certain particulars. But then there's other moments in the cycle when the best thing for us, for our growth, for becoming, is to burn a nest and kind of leave that behind. Is that the case? How central is that to what the record is exploring?
Yeah, I think it's much like needed to do both. And when I wrote a lot of these songs, I was living out of my minivan and touring around the US, and I had kind of like no feeling of a location of home except this car and these spaces, or this couch in the moment. So that played a lot of how I was feeling at the moment. Of I got excited to return to like my parents' house, or in just Minneapolis. This was my home before I left during that time, and
these homely places. But that are not quite.
Because I think home is really your friends and your family. I think like the idea of like the structural idea of being home is an obvious thing, and I like that. But I've been moving around for the last 10 years, and I haven't had like a home for myself except my friends and my family. So
well, that's a good home.
It's great. That's like, but I think thinking of it in that way, sometimes you need to, some people need to leave to realize what they had, or just like space, or to recognize that you have really good friends around you, so you give it space, and then you come back to it to show that you appreciate it. So in that way, I think a lot of ideas of it circulating, which is just day-to-day life. It's not like this is revolutionary or anything, but
it's a certain flow, a certain way of being in day-to-day life.
I think it's pushed on people a lot. You have to be a certain way, and you have to work really, really hard, and I think that's really good. But I think I'm just trying to find the balance of both of them.
Equanimity.
Of an individual person, and rather than everybody looks this way and everybody should think this way, I think it's more just you should figure it out for yourself, and I hope you do a really good job at that.
And I'm proud of what efforts you're making.
Yeah, that's definitely a song that I wrote for myself for showing up, because I was like thinking of that, and then also just thanking everybody else for showing up to shows, because in Minneapolis this last winter was horrible, and we got negative 50-degree weathers, and people were still playing shows, and it was just like, thank you to anybody who even like walked out of your house into your car and decided to be here, because the journey there was so, people should, I don't know, be more excited about the journey, because once you showed up, like the job's done, you've done your work, you went grocery shopping, I don't know, I feel like all that ties in, I guess, in the album.
Yeah, how does, so two things, thinking of traveling to Mortimer's, I suddenly remembered my first visit to music venue Mortimer's was immediately after, it was on New Year's Eve, immediately after you played at a house show a few blocks away from it.
Yeah,
and I think
time ago
that
now.
was quite a while ago, like a year and a half or something.
Might have been, I think it was
two and a half years. Yeah, and I think that was, you were about to become more nomadic. Is that right?
Yep, I had been kind of wanting to do that for a while. I like touring a lot, and I hadn't done it until more recently, like continually. I would just do pop-up shows because I was in the area for a bit, but I don't know, after playing around consistently, I had like I had so many conversations with people we were staying with and artists all around, and it made me feel like everybody feels the same way. Like all artists are kind of going through this same like rut of trying to create, but feeling like it's not good enough, or there's just so much art out there and it's all available to be seen. Like,
and it's all increasingly kind of commodified.
Yeah, and I think people just need to sit down sometimes and just say, do you like it? Do you like doing this anymore? And why do you like it? And then just doing it again and showing up again. And like doing the kind of just stop thinking so much about all of the other mess in the world and comparative things. And I think a lot of people are afraid to take risks too, because it seems like everything's kind of been made. So the things that people want to do something new on, there's a lot of fear. And I think I just wanted to make an album that was really uplifting and could kind of just refocus blankness without telling you
why
to, like,
blankness?
To kind of like start with a clean slate and then reevaluate. And that's like a really broad way of just saying I hope people are doing well.